My name is Emily, and I am ExploraChick's digital marketing manager. For International Women's Day, I sat down with hiking guide and world explorer Doris Lance. Thanks to everyone who joined us to celebrate International Women's Day, and thanks again for your patience with our brief technical challenges. We enjoyed sharing this live chat with you. Well, we've got Doris here with us on International Women's Day, and Doris is someone who is an incredibly inspiring person. From all of the adventures that she's been on and just the stories. When I first talked with Doris, we chatted for over an hour and it just flew by, just hearing about all the incredible adventures that she has been on. And for International Women's Day at ExploraChick, we wanted to bring you some inspiring women this month who are creating their own history and doing things, their own way. And Doris is one of those women who we're excited to introduce you to. So Doris, if you just would like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about you.
I'd love to. And I apologize for being late because I know, Emily, I've been on enough expeditions, like when I went to Patagonia, that if you were late, you missed the boat. So I don't want to do that. So let me tell everybody, my handle is Avid Hiker 2, and a little bit about me. I think the influence of the outdoors and forest bathing and hiking and traveling came from probably from the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, where I grew up. And it was a huge influence on my life because I started exploring, I think, as soon as I could walk. So I was out and about exploring where the Blue Ridge Mountains are part of the Appalachians. It's a segment, and it's from Pennsylvania down to Georgia. I grew up in North Carolina in those beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains and acquainted myself with wildflowers, nature, animals. Really don't have much fear of any kind of animal. Maybe a rhinoceros, but graduated from college there in North Carolina, went on to do advanced degrees, and now I'm living in Central California in San Luis Obispo County in a little town. Well, it's a wine country area called Paso Robles.
Nice. Yeah. When did you move out there again from North Carolina?
Well, my love was in the Mojave Desert. I was on the weekends, I was a hiking guide in Death Valley for 10 years. So I moved to the Central Coast about 5 years ago. And I had lived in the Mojave Desert for about 11 years before that.
Wow, that's awesome. That area of California is so unique. All of California is so different, but that's a very special area down there.
Well, and I think your listeners that have traveled either US-wise or around the world has realized that every place you go has its own unique topography and weather. And you have to adjust to that because there could be ticks if you're in Sequoia in the forest, or there could be mosquitoes like if you're in South America. So you kind of have to adjust for the topography and where you are.
Yeah, that's a good point. What tips do you have for people adjusting to different areas? What was something that maybe was challenging for you going from North Carolina out west?
Well, I'm a nomad. Okay, so let's just get that squared away right away. I think to know the area. I mean, I've done Patagonia, Fujisan, Machu Picchu. Know the area. Your homework. Know the climate. Know what time of year you're going. What the rainfall is going to be, and what animals you might encounter. And one biggie is elevation gain. Because if you're going from, say, below sea level in Death Valley up to Telescope Peak, which is over 11,000 feet, you're going to need to have that in mind and adjust to that.
Yeah. Have you had any bouts with elevation sickness or anything unfortunate like that with big elevation gains and losses?
I've only had one, because I usually, when I went to Machu Picchu, I trained 6 months before I went.
Wow.
And I was living at 2,800 feet then. So, you know, I had some elevation, but going over, I think anytime you get over 9,000 feet, you better be prepared.
Yeah.
And some people more than that, because I saw some people on the trail going up, and they were only like, that starts at 7,000, and they were only a couple thousand feet up, and a young man was laying over a rock, and he was as gray as the rock, and I stopped to help him, and he was like 19, and he looked at me like, wow, you're not going to help me. And I asked him if he had water and if he was okay, and he said yes. So I was hiking on up the trail, and I saw a ranger, and I told the ranger that he might want to check on this young man, because elevation affects people no matter if it's 1,000 feet or 10,000 feet.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary part of hiking. I've definitely had, I mean, not altitude sickness, but symptoms of lightheadedness and, you know, starting to get a headache. When I hiked Mount Fuji a couple of years ago with my mom, and that was the first time that I felt that. And yeah, that's not fun. Did you say that you did hike Mount Whitney?
I've gone on the Mount Whitney trail up to, I have not summited Mount Whitney. I've gone to Lone Pine Lake, and I've gone the back way.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't summited up. You have to have someone with you that knows the back way, but don't try that.
I didn't even know there was a back way.
Well, that's what they want you to not know, because so many people aren't prepared. Why? So people aren't just prepared. I know I did the rim in the Grand Canyon, and there was a girl in flip-flops going down the South Kaibab Trail with one small water bottle.
Yeah, that's a common occurrence in national parks. I've seen people hiking in jeans, flip-flops. Yeah, there's people like that out there, but preparing is definitely a key.
Well, Emily, the reason is because there's going to be a rescue. None. I guarantee you, there's going to be a rescue of someone that's not prepared.
No, I'm sure that's a common occurrence. But yeah, you've done so many hikes in national parks and abroad. What kind of got you into hiking in general? I know you said you grew up in North Carolina, but these bigger international treks that you've done, what kind of sparked that?
I started hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountain areas. I was born outside of Brevard, outside of Asheville. A lot of people know Asheville, so Brevard is the national forest. My parents would go there on the weekends, but they allowed me to explore. And I started getting out in nature and just feeling at home. I feel more at home than I do in a building. And then what got me into international is some friends in the desert were going to hike Fujisan. And I thought, if I'm going to go, it'd be smart for me to go with someone who really knew and would be there and learn from them. And so there was 4 of us or 5 of us, and we went to Fujisan. And it was funny you mentioned that you got some altitude sickness. Really never had it.
Oh, wow.
bad, but I had it
You had it where?
at Mount Fuji.
Ah,
And I think one of the reasons is every so many thousand miles, you can stop and get your stick stamped. And instead of getting my stick stamped, I got some black tea. And that was a wrong move. Because as I got higher and higher, I kept, you know what? You just stop, you take a breath, and you just inch your way up instead of trying to power through it, unless you want to throw up, which some people not smart. Now, you hike Whitney, I know they tell you to go up the day before and go up like 7,000 and then come back down and then go up a little bit more. There's White Mountains that's across from Whitney that you can go to and go up to maybe 10, 11,000 and come back down to adjust so your body can adjust.
Yeah, that adjusting is definitely important. Wow. So Mount Fuji, that was your first international hike?
Yes. No, not my hike. My first international hike was on my hands and knees exploring a cave in Thailand in Samrad Yat National Park.
Yeah, you told me that story when we first talked. That sounded like a crazy adventure in Thailand. What year did you go to Thailand?
That was like 2000, I think.
2000.
Yeah, it's been 21 years ago. Wow.
Very cool. Thailand and Japan. And where else have you gone around the world on your hiking adventures?
Machu Picchu in Peru.
Machu Picchu, yeah.
And Patagonia, Torres de Paine. I went on the Chilean side. You can go on the Chilean or the Argentina and Canada and the US.
So many cool adventures. I hate asking like what was your favorite, because everything can be a favorite for different reasons, but do you have any stories or memories that really stick out in your mind for special hikes you've done?
Oh, well, don't ask me my favorite, because that's asking you which child of your children you love most.
Right.
You know, and I got stories, you guys. I got stories in Death Valley. I've got stories in Peru. I mean, I could talk. I got stories in Sequoia. I'll tell you that story. I was doing Sherman, which is not a very difficult peak. And I was hiking with two other people. They were my friends. It had rained the day before. So I'm walking this log that has moist moss on it. And I'm walking and balancing and doing fine. However, my foot slipped and one of the branches, and I've got it to prove it, went through my left leg below my kneecap. Hello. So were behind me, and I thought I got to do something. So I had a bandana. I always carry a bandana. Desert for sure, because you want to wet that bandana and put over your head or around your neck. Anyway, I tied the bandana around my kneecap and my left leg. I ended up summiting the peak, and they came up behind me and they saw this blood running down my left leg. What I was doing, and I said, "We came to hike, didn't we?" And they said, "We're taking you to the doctor." And I did, and I had to have 6 stitches. But I summited. I was safe. I had water. I had my friends. They thought I was crazy, but.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Glad you were okay on that one. Yeah. Bandana, a note to self. That's not something I commonly carry, but.
Oh, you got to carry a bandana. You've got to in the desert. It's got to be around your neck, on your head, especially if it's like June, July, and August, because you can have a heat stroke when it's that high of temperature. The highest I've ever hiked in was 124.
Oh my gosh.
I would not suggest that.
No. Wow. Was that in Death Valley?
No way, Jose. Well, I knew it was going to be hot, but I got on the trail, and this is a learning experience. I got on the trail. I didn't know it was 124 until that was in the Grand Canyon. And went down to Phantom Ranch on the South Kaibab Creek, and somebody had erected this huge thermometer. Hello. And it said 124. So I took off my backpack with my clothes on, the Rockville Creek, which is right there by the path, and I laid in that creek with all my clothes on for, I don't know, 20 minutes.
Had to cool down.
Have to cool down. Yeah, I'm going to take care of myself. I mean, that's foolish. That's why you've got to really do your homework. And once you get some experience, really heed your body, because people are getting, in the Sierras and other places, people are getting rescued all the time by helicopter.
What else is always in your backpack? You've got a bandana. What else do you always make sure to bring with you on your hikes?
Pepper spray.
Pepper spray.
Now, I take the pepper spray. Be careful if you use the pepper spray. Make sure you're not downwind, because when you release it, it's going to come back in your face.
Right.
So make sure that the wind is behind your back. And I take it sometimes for animals, but do not use it on animals unless you absolutely have to. And never, never, never use it on a bear, a mountain lion, a bobcat, or a skunk.
Or a skunk. And why not use it on those animals? Like if you were in a situation that
it antagonizes them, and of course will react, and you'll smell for weeks.
The skunk, yeah.
Defense. I mean, you can't blame the skunk. That's his defense. And bears, I have encountered bears up in Canada, and he was on his hind legs eating berries, I'm pretty sure. And I don't look them in the face, and I don't get too close, and I'm not doing a selfie with them. Hell no.
Right. Yeah, keep your distance.
You don't run either. You try to keep plenty of space, back away. But he was more interested in those blackberries than he was me.
That's usually how it is. You usually don't have to worry too much, but keeping your distance and being prepared. Good tips. For your hikes, do you normally go solo or do you go with groups?
Well, I've gone solo for a long time, but I would recommend that necessarily. And I'll tell you two reasons why. Part of your journey is experiencing it with someone else, and they things and experience things, and I just think it's wonderful. I've gone solo because I just take off and go without any fear. But now I think it's better to go with someone, because there was a photographer in the Sierras going Whitney or Alancha Peak or one of those peaks, and he fell and he broke, I think, his leg. Well, you can be an experienced hiker, but if you fall and break a bone, you're going to be hurting. So you need somebody there with you, or you can carry those hot spots, which is very smart. If you do go solo, carry hot spots.
Like for GPS or to notify people, right? Yeah, that's a good tip as well, especially if you're solo. Yeah, and also letting people know where you're going to be.
I always sign the
That too.
Trails, most trails, they have you sign in, and I tell them exactly. The Eastern Sierras and the Sierras are really good at that in California. They'll have you sign a book and where your destination is. I'm always doing that. And sometimes I'll go into the ranger station and tell them where I'm going. But we don't hike solo that much anymore. My family, my son doesn't think it's such a smart idea.
Yeah, that's smart. And then you're so active. You do so much. There's a saying that you told me that's kind of your catchphrase for staying active. What tips can you share for leading such an active life, and especially later, like you're in your 70s and you're doing so many amazing things?
I wasn't going to tell people my age, but since you have, I am over 70. Well, my saying is lotion is motion for the body. And it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
You've got to move. And it doesn't have to be a summiting large hike. It could be a walk in the park. It could be going in your backyard or doing laps or swim. Motion is lotion for the body. And that is something that has kept me going, is that my body is staying, it's like a car. I mean, if you let a car sit out forever and don't start it, the battery goes dead, some of the parts rust. Well, is even more sensitive. And like I say, I'm not one of these people. I don't have one of these egos where you say, well, I the 10 peaks of whatever. I mean, that's okay if you need that. I don't need that. I've proved it. So I don't need to go there, but walk, jog, swim, play tennis, pickleball, whatever it is.
I love that. That's great advice at any age. Just stay moving. Yeah. That's something even if I'm sitting down at my desk or find myself, stationary for too long, just getting up and getting outside, taking a lap and coming back down helps me.
And they make the desk now. I have one right here that you can raise up and work on your computer or whatever, and you can stand. I just think the opportunity is there, and if you don't, you'll regret it later as you get older.
Yeah, definitely. Doris, what else? What is on your list to see in this world that you haven't yet seen or done?
Not much, dear. It's a short list. Well, there's one place that I'd like to go back to, but that place. Maybe hike hut to hut in Slovenia. Beautiful lakes. And I think that's kind of fun to go hut to hut. Not that I'm against sleeping in the back of my car camping. I've done that many times at Sequoia, or on the ground, done that too. But I think it's fun to hike hut to hut because when I've gone internationally, I've met the coolest people. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're great. And, I've got friends in Switzerland and Norway and Japan, Peru. Lovely, lovely people and love their food. But, you just meet so many people. And I think the hut-to-hut concept or the cabin-to-cabin, now, if you do the Appalachian Trail, have you done the Appalachian Trail, Emily?
No, I've done a couple sections in North Carolina, but I haven't done the whole thing. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I haven't done the whole thing, but they have the platforms.
Right.
Which is so cool. But when you realize, wow, they've got the platform, you get your up there because they've got them up there because of snakes.
Yeah.
So hike on up and get on the platform so that you don't wake up with a stranger in your.
Yeah, exactly. International trips and making friends all over the world. That's a really cool part of travel that I like as well.
And the food that I ate in Thailand was beyond real. So fresh. So good.
some really awesome food from Thailand. I totally agree. Well, we're kind of wrapping up a little bit on time here. But if you could answer the question, since here at Explore Chick, we are all explorers in our own way, and living our own life with values that align with what we like and what we want to do, and challenging ourselves and stepping out of our comfort zones and going on new adventures. What would you say being an explorer means to you?
Never stop.
Never stop.
There's always something to learning experience. And I'm sure many of the listeners have gone to this. It's a Japanese concept. It started in 2004, and it was called forest bathing. Shinyin Yoku was the name. And I've adapted that to nature bathing, using your 5 senses. And I like to go out, whether I'm on a walk or whether I'm hiking or really summiting someplace. It's just hear the birds or hear the sounds and smell whatever the smells are, and feel the breeze on your face, and just using all your 5 senses. That's so refreshing, and it's smart, because if you listen, you may hear a bear screaming back on a tree, hello, and he felt you way before you got there. Use your senses and keep exploring and learning.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a good time to bring up your book, your reflection book. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I think that's the best way to use all the senses.
It is. So all my hikes and all my ventures, I've taken along a pad and pencil, and I've sketched flowers. So I've got flowers from below sea level at 264 feet below sea level at Badwater Basin. And I sketched the desert 5 spot. They don't bloom every year, by the way. I was shocked. And then I've sketched above 10, 11,000, 12,000 feet. So I published a book, Botanical Reflections, and it's all my flowers that I've sketched on my trails and made it into like an artistic journal.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking about that, because it's a love. It's like a birth of some really laborious ideas.
Yeah, I love that. And you have journal prompts in there as well, next to each flower that you've drawn, right? To help spark some creativity. Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to send that in an email to everyone who joined the Zoom today, if they want to check that out.
Okay, so I've got a question from it that everybody can just ponder now. What has brought a smile to your face today? And you could journal that.
I love that.
And then it's got a flower, and I've got a quote, one of them that I love. I've got Gandhi in there. I've got Jesus quote from the Bible. I've got Mahatma Gandhi, a lot of the quotes, and one of them is from Dawson Trotman. And it said, thoughts disentangle themselves when they pass through the lips and fingertips.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. I think those are really great notes to end this. And I think getting to chat with you again and just hear some of your fun stories definitely brought a smile to my face. And I think to some of our Explorer Chicks here too today.
Oh, and I got some stories about this miner in Death Valley that I can tell you. But
maybe next time.
A censor, because that dude was something else.
Oh man, you do. You got some of the best stories for sure. I wanted to just, while we have a couple minutes, maybe 5 or 10 more minutes, just kind of open it up and see if anyone who is listening has any questions for you or questions about any of your trips. So if anyone wants to add them into the chat if you have a question, and then you can unmute yourself and you can ask it. But if you just comment in the chat first, and I'll just kind of go down the line so we're not all talking at the same time to Doris.
I would love to get some questions. Come on. You'll get them when you get 11,000 feet up. Say, why didn't I ask her about this?
Right.
I have a comment.
Okay, we've got a comment.
I'm Doris's sister that lives in North Carolina. I stayed in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I do a lot of hiking, but one of my favorite things lately has been all the different waterfalls that there are in North Carolina. Doris was born in the county, Transylvania County, and it's the land of the waterfalls. And I'd like to know if she sees many waterfalls in other locations.
Thanks for the question. Usually I habitate that have waterfalls. And it's interesting, even in Death Valley, I can tell you of 3 or 4 waterfalls that I've been to. Now, the average tourist won't find them because they are in high elevation. Here's how I find waterfalls if I'm not on the trail. And oh, by the way, stay on the trail. Is look for clumps of grass or trees or vegetation, and you know that there's got to be water somewhere by. It might be underground, which it has been many times, but even in the Valley of Fire, which I hiked just 4 months ago or 5 months ago with a friend from the desert, and that is in Nevada, you can find water because you're going to look for vegetation that's growing that has to have water.
That's a good tip. I hadn't never thought about that, but that makes sense.
And water is, here's my 2 must-have. Water in my backpack and the best shoes that I can get.
Best
because
shoes.
you hike 10 miles a day, let me tell you, you're going to use the best shoes you can get so that your feet don't get blisters. Now, I've had blisters, and I use the tape. I use hiking tape. But if you've got shoes that are too small, don't fit right, your toes just scrunch up at the top, or they're uncomfortable, you're going to be hating life. So use the best shoes you can afford and water.
What shoes do you use? I think maybe some people might be curious about what you found that works.
I'd be glad to tell you, and they're not endorsing me, but I've tried Keen. I love them. I've tried that. I love it. I've tried about out there, but the only shoe for me for going the distance is the Ultra.
Ultra.
Yes. OMG. Those are the shoes where you can hike and hike and hike, and still your feet won't be burning at the end.
Good to know.
And on another note on that, Emily, a lot of people wear thin socks underneath their socks. That's very common for people who do a lot of hiking. I have not had to do that yet, but good shoes will eliminate a lot of pain and discomfort.
Awesome. Good to know about the shoes that you like. It's always helpful hearing different recommendations or what works for people, because finding good hiking shoes, it's a unique thing. We're all different and all have different feet, but I love hearing kind of what works for different people. Along that kind of hiking shoe question, there's another question about finding trails and how you find trails, or what would be a good trail for beginners.
Okay, if you've never hiked before and you live, it depends. Here's the thing. Here's how you pick it. Elevation, what the elevation is, your fitness level. Now, if your fitness level is just starting out, I'd say 2 to 3 miles would be enough. And if that was easy, then go to 4 miles or 5 miles. If that was too hard, go back to 1. See, our ego gets involved. We think we gotta, You'll get there. You'll get there. But build up to it. I think that's the key, is build up to it. And do some elevation. And if you don't have elevation, like I didn't have that much until I went to the mountains, the Panamint Mountain Range in Death Valley, is you can do bleachers.
Ooh.
And bleachers are excellent prep for aerobic as well as getting the heart, going, pumping.
That's a good tip as well. That cardio, that's a good workout for that. All right. And we've got another question. Rebecca mentioned, or she asked that you mentioned that you were a hiking guide, Doris. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, that was the love of my life. I'm a teacher at the college now. I teach at Cuesta College here in Central California right now, but for 10 years, and anyone can get in touch with me if they need to ask me about Death Valley. I was a hiking guide in Death Valley. Now I wasn't in the Park Service. I was contracted out by a company, and I would take people and I had a questionnaire for them. So before I hiked with them, I had a questionnaire that they need to feed back to me. What shape are they in? Do they have any physical limitations? How long would they like to go? What would they like to see? Because in Death Valley, I got to know the Native Americans that live on the reservation there. So I could talk to them about a Native American graphics, pictographs. I don't think there's any petroglyphs, but or we could do elevation gain. Did they have problems with that? Did they want to see wildflowers? Did they want to know about geology? So I had to get a feel for that. And it was very successful. I was booked all the time when I was there because I loved that. But at certain times of the year, it's better to be avoided. So I tried to find out what their likes and interests were, and then design the trip for either 1 hour, 2 hour, half day, or full day. So I hope that answers your question.
I think so. And we've got one more question. Someone asked a little bit earlier, they said, what is a good trail snack? What snacks do you take when you hike?
Oh dear, I take so many. My pack is usually 25 pounds, but I'm going for a long trip. I'll try to make it 35 pounds because I eat a lot. My favorite. Well, before the night before, and I'm sure most of you have heard this, it's pasta.
Night before pasta. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because pasta stays long in the stomach, so it's digested slowly. So you'll have some energy because it's carbs, of course. And then water. I don't do juice too well. My system doesn't like juice. They like, if I'm going to have orange or the apple. So I do an apple over an orange because the orange can get squished in your backpack. Mm. Bananas can too. And then my snack, I like the bite-sized bars. Mm-hmm. I got a story about that. I got to tell you real quick.
Okay, real quick.
So I was coming north. I was coming back up Bright Angel Trail in the Grand Canyon, and everything in my pack. And this girl offered me fried
apricot. Okay.
Because you can get fruit that's dried. And I'm telling you, that helped me so much because I had the water, but I needed some more carbs, nuts, and I was eating more protein. And she gave me the dried apricots. Of course, it was 2:00 in the morning, but I had a headlight on. But it really gave me the energy. It gave me a boost. So I would say that probably if you can tolerate carbs, some dried fruit, and I love nuts. I mean, any
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all good snacks. Everything you said, you gave some great tips today. And as always, loved hearing those fun travel stories that you have.
Well, and the last thing I did look and see on your website, you have a weekend, a 3-day or a week class on survival skills.
Yes.
That is so smart.
Mm.
So smart. And not, I mean, REI does them, Dick's probably Sporting Good does them. Just get yourself smart. And you're going to enjoy the journey so much more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Doris, thank you so much for joining us on International Women's Day and chatting with us and just sharing some of your stories and answering some questions.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I could talk and tell you stories forever.
Yeah.
And some of them are fairly colorful. All right. Thanks again, Emily. And goodbye to everyone. And remember my saying, motion is lotion for the body.
Thanks again, Doris, for spending the day with us and chatting all about hiking, travels, and tips for leading an active life. Our Women's Month conversation series continues next week as I sit down with Annette and Christy, the Wonder Woman. Tune in to our live Zoom conversation next Wednesday, March 23rd.